For years, I believed that to be a real nature photographer, I had to be out there, chasing epic light, hiking through storms, sleeping in my car, and doing whatever it took for that one perfect landscape shot. And I loved it. Landscape photography is why I moved to the Pacific Northwest in the first place. But then, I had to give it all up. Well, sort of. This story is for you if you've ever felt creatively stuck, short on time, or that your work isn't epic enough for the Instagram age. Because a few years ago, that's exactly where I was. A new day job, a young daughter, growing responsibilities, and suddenly that time and energy for those epic trips, it just vanished. I was completely burnt out, feeling like I was losing the one thing that I thought defined me. This video is the story of how I found a way back, a way to create images that feel just as meaningful, just minutes from my front door when time and energy are in short supply. It's about how my adventure shifted from chasing sunsets across the state to crouching in wet grass at sunrise. And how that change didn't just save my photography, it made me a better and more fulfilled photographer. And it began by confronting some hard truths about the dream I was chasing. Let's be honest, landscape photography can feel like a bit of a rat race. You open up social media and it's the endless flood of incredible, epic shots from places like Patagonia, Iceland, or the Himalayas. It creates this pressure, a feeling that you constantly have to go further, deeper into the wilderness to create something worthwhile. But for many of us, juggling a career and a family and other responsibilities, that's just not reality. We can't always drop everything to chase a fleeting moment of light in some far-flung destination. That pressure exists even if you live somewhere beautiful, as I'm fortunate to do here in the Pacific Northwest. Even on the rare occasions when I can take a dedicated photo trip, it feels like a gamble. Part-timers can't compete with full-time pros, living out of their vans who can follow the weather and react to conditions in real time. I've booked trips a year in advance, basically just praying for good conditions, only to arrive to a week of flat light and rain. What we have here today is a blue sky day, which is one of those unfortunate things that happens all too often. You know, you book a trip months, maybe a year in advance, and you've got everything planned, you have all of your gear, you've got all kinds of ideas, you've pre-visualized shots, and then 24 to 48 hours before, you see nothing but sun and blue skies. So what I'm gonna do today is try to make the most of it. But for me, the breaking point wasn't a week of bad weather. Let's say you beat the odds. You plan the trip, you get the time off, and the conditions are perfect. You can still show up to this. Last year on the Oregon coast, I hiked out to a set of sea stacks for sunset. I was hoping for a quiet, creative moment with nature. But as I got closer to the spot, this is what I saw. It was a sea of tripods, dozens of photographers all clamoring for the same composition. And it felt less like a wilderness escape and more like a crowded press event. And in that moment, it just crystallized for me. My creative fulfillment had become so completely tied to these massive external factors that I couldn't control. Perfect weather, empty locations, and the time and money to get there. Now, I want to be completely clear. If your dream is backpacking in the mountains, chasing that epic light, and you have the means to do it, go for it. That pursuit is beautiful. But it's funny how often what we want and what we need are at odds. I wanted to be out there. But with a new job, a home to maintain, and a young daughter to care for, I needed to be here, putting down roots with my family and earning a stable income. That tug of war wasn't just a scheduling problem. It felt like my identity was being torn apart. And that feeling of being on the coast, surrounded by the crowd of photographers, when I was seeking solitude, it was the final straw. When you can't do the thing you love, you start to question everything. Who am I if I'm not a landscape photographer? Am I quitting on my dream? Will branching into macro weaken my portfolio? It may seem silly, but at the time, these questions were weighing heavily on me. And answering them meant confronting this unspoken rule that so many of us feel. The pressure from social media to have this one singular identity, to pick one genre and master it. It's immense. And it doesn't leave a lot of room for us to evolve. I felt lost, and I knew I had to try something different. It was a matter of creative survival. In my quest for clarity, I realized that I didn't need to have all of the answers to start. So I started asking different questions. Instead of, who am I? It became, what else could I be? Instead of, am I quitting on my dream? It became, how can I adapt my dream to the life I have right now? Instead of, will it weaken my portfolio? It became, how could this deepen it? A photographer who can find the epic in a mountain range and in the intricate pattern of moss isn't weaker, they're more connected, more versatile. Occasional detail shot on the way to a landscape photo. And I gave myself one simple rule. For the next month, go out with only a macro lens and see what happens. I had no idea this one decision would completely change my photography. The first thing I realized, it's pretty humbling to be a beginner again. With landscapes, I'm comfortable. I have my process. But with macro, I spent the first few outings walking away with a memory card full of misses. But slowly, I started to learn. With landscapes, you're aware of things like depth of field and diffraction. With macro, you're battling for millimeters of focus. It pushed me technically in a way I hadn't been challenged in years. Thankfully, some things were familiar. I was still focused on composition and still getting up way too early. But it was the differences that got me hooked. Macro is less frantic. It frees you from the chase. It forces you to slow down, to study, to see. The spontaneity of not knowing what I'll find. The challenge of handheld flash focus stacking, and the sheer wonder of seeing intricate details on a creature I'd normally walk right past. You could take two photographers to the same small patch of forest floor, and they'll come away with two completely different, incredibly personal sets of images. I had to lose the ability to go big to truly appreciate the power of going small. I learned that feeling lost can be an opportunity, that making a meaningful image isn't about how epic the location is. It's about your attention, your curiosity, and your willingness to see. And of course, this isn't just all about bugs and flowers. There are whole worlds to explore in abstracts, intentional camera movement, and small scenes. That freedom to create personal, meaningful work almost anywhere, anytime, is what it's all about. So no, I'm not actually quitting landscape photography. I love it far too much. But right now, these quieter subjects are my passion, and macro is the one I keep coming back to. Honestly, I have no idea how long this obsession will last, and I'm okay with that. I've learned that I'm allowed to evolve, and so are you. And on that note, I'd genuinely love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let me know, have you ever felt that pressure to stick to one genre, or have you found creative freedom in exploring something new? I'm excited to read your story. This journey into the small world is just beginning for me and this channel. And while it's been creatively freeing, the techniques themselves can be a real challenge. Seeing the shot is one thing, but capturing deep focus stacks of moving insects is another beast entirely. That's why in my next series of videos, I'll take you along for the ride. We'll go on some short macro photo walks before work, and I'll break down my exact lightweight setup and handheld focus stacking techniques I'm using to capture images like these. So if you're feeling a little stuck, or you're just ready to dive deeper into the world of Pacific Northwest macro, make sure you're subscribed. Thanks for letting me share this with you, and I'll see you in the next one.